Namaste and welcome to your 60-minute class. In today's Meridian Yin Yoga class, we're going to focus on some upper body meridians. Now, what's really interesting about Yin Yoga is Yin Yoga mostly focuses on the lower half of our body. So from the lower back down to the feet. But we also have meridian lines that run through the upper half of our body. Most of them start in the hands, but a lot of them also start in the surface of the front of the body and then work their way up either through the head or around the shoulder area and then eventually down into through the arms and down into the hands. So the two organs that we're going to work with today, we're going to work with the large intestine and the lung and meridian lines. Okay. And from a more energetic perspective, these two particular organs actually have the same kind of function, not from anatomical, but more from energetic. So they both are receivers. So your lungs are the first organ in your body that actually receives. So you take a breath in and you receive air. So you're assimilating the outside world. You're bringing it into your lungs. Whereas your large intestines, of course, is another receiver. So it's receiving the waste that the body no longer needs. So they both store and they both receive and then they both release as well. So of course, when you exhale, you're releasing out that carbon dioxide. And of course, with your large intestine, of course, you're releasing waste when you go to the bathroom. Now, emotionally speaking, these two particular organs actually hold a lot of grief, sadness, depression, heaviness. And in the wintertime, because we tend to be more inclusive and more withdrawn and more introverted, these two organs can get really out of balance really quickly. So we're going to work at removing and clearing some of these blockages today. We're going to start with a couple of acupressure exercises, and then we're going to move into our yin practice. Throughout the yin practice, I definitely recommend staying warm as possible so that you just keep that energy flowing within you. So coming to a comfortable seated position, even sitting up on the edge of a block if you want to, we're going to start with a tapping exercise. Now in acupressure, you can actually stimulate the pressure points by either pressing them, by doing needling, or of course actually tapping. So we're going to be tapping the lung meridian line number 1. And at the same time, we're going to be tapping the back of our body at our kidneys. So I'm going to just show you what it looks like. As you're tapping the one shoulder, you're going to the opposite kidney. So this is what it looks like in front. Now, if I turn so that you can see my back, you'll see that I'm tapping with the outside of my hand onto my lower back here. So this is my kidney area that I'm tapping onto. And then of course the front are the lungs. So it's a really simple exercise. I actually do this exercise every single morning. It just helps to balance because the energy in the kidneys and the lungs actually correlate together. So when we take a breath in, what happens is we assimilate that breath in, but then it actually roots down in our kidneys and in the energy of the kidneys. So sitting up nice and tall, just bring your hands onto your lap to start with. And take a nice deep breath in. Take a long breath out. And then we're going to slowly start to tap. So we're going to be starting with the right hand going to the lung and the left hand going to the kidney. Okay, so when you're ready, take a breath in. And take a breath out. And then you're going to just slowly start to tap. And you're going the opposite way each time. Now you can go slow like I am right here. You can also start to go a little bit faster if you like. And don't worry about like tapping hard. You just want to tap enough that you actually hear the tap. And then once you've got a nice rhythm going, close your eyes and start to focus on breathing. So nice, long, deep breaths in and out through your nose. So when you've got either like a cold, flu, any kind of like mucus buildup in your lungs or in your throat, this is a really good exercise to do. If it feels comfortable, just start to go a little bit faster if you can. If your arms get tired, just pause. It's okay. You can always come back in. So I usually do about 2 minutes of this exercise in the morning. If you want to sort of time that in terms of how many repetitions that is, it's anywhere from 50 to 70, depending on how fast or how slow you're going. I usually try to aim to do 50 rounds. Okay, so we're going to do 3 more rounds here. So 3, 2, 1, and then release your hands, palms face down, eyes are closed. Just breathe here, just breathe. One more deep breath in, long breath out. Then we're going to do one more exercise. This is a large intestine pressure point that we're going to do. We're going to do the one arm and then we'll do the other because it's kind of difficult to do both at the same time. So this particular point is located, if you bend your elbow up like I have, and take your second finger of your left hand, and where you see the crease, the very top crease of your elbow, just start to press. You'll press into the flesh there. And that's large intestine point number 11. This is a really great point for like elbow pain, like if you have any kind of like tendonitis. It's also really good for cold and flus. The other thing it's really good for is clearing out the lungs, but also boosting the immune system. So at this time of year with like, you know, lots of colds and flus and stuff going around, this is a really great point to press. So when you press in here, it's not about pressing really hard, just enough that you can feel your index or your finger pressing in towards the flesh there. And then again, it's really important to breathe deeply here. So nice, long, deep breaths. Keeping your shoulders relaxed. Face is soft. So at some point in pressing in here, you might start to feel a pulse underneath your finger. So that's great because that means that you're actually clearing out blockages in that meridian line. So how long it takes for that to happen? Honestly, it really depends on how many blockages you have along that line or in the corresponding meridian lines for the large intestine, because it does, you know, link up with this particular meridian organ as well. So it's not a hard and fast rule. Like if I press here for like 2 minutes, I'm going to start to feel a pulse. If things are really in sync and in balance, then you'll feel a pulse pretty quick. You also might start to feel a little bit of heat moving up through your body. That's okay. Again, it's just when you start to feel heat, it's a sign of energy moving and things clearing. I'm going to hold here for another 3 breaths. One more. Deep breath in. Long breath out. And you're slowly just start to release the finger, and then the arms release. Just pause for a moment. And then trying not to move too much. We'll switch sides. So let's bring that left arm in. And it's kind of nice if you've got your hand up by your collarbone where the lung meridian line number 1 is. It's kind of nice. It's just like a nice energetic bonus there. And then take your second finger of your right hand. And again, just at the crease, you want to find that nice little fleshy part so you're not on bone. Again, you're sitting up tall. You can close your eyes. You're going to start to tune into the breath. Relaxing your shoulders. And what's really interesting is that sometimes you'll feel the pulse on one side quicker than you will on the other. And what that often means is that sometimes just the meridian line on that side of the body is more out of balance or imbalance. So especially if you're working with injuries or illnesses, what you'll often find is that the meridian line will feel different on one side than the other. So obviously the slower you find the pulse, the more that means that the blockage is deeper. So even if you didn't practice the yin portion of this class, or if you didn't practice the acupressure point of this class, in either case, either one of these therapies is actually working at removing the blockages. It's just that much more potent and powerful when you combine the two together. We'll take 3 more deep breaths here. And then slowly begin to release your hands. Place them back down onto your thighs, palms face down. Just notice, let the energy flow. Let the blood flow. And it'll take a bit of time, but eventually as you practice more regularly, you'll start to be more in tune with those meridian lines moving and the energy clearing. Okay. All right, just take your hands back behind you. Stretch the legs out for a moment. Just give them a little bit of a shake. Just give the knees a little bit of a massage. We are going to be coming into a kneed position next. So if you do have a blanket that you want to place on your mat to have some cushioning, you can also turn the sides of your mat over or even double it up in the center. Okay. So in this shape here, we're going to open the knees quite wide. We're coming into a position where we're taking a bit of a twist in this, and we're going to be doing both sides. So when you're twisting, what's happening is you're accessing the meridian lines of your lung and large intestines with the upper body in the twist. Okay. So with the big toes together, the knees are open. You're going to start to come down onto your forearms. Now, if you can't come down to the forearms, that's okay. Come up onto your hands. And then you're going to take the right arm and thread it underneath the left. Now, this is where propping might be comfortable. So if you have a block, you can place it underneath your head, whichever height you need. If you're working with blankets or towels, you'll just stack them up. Alternatively, as long as it's comfortable in the neck and shoulder, you're coming down to the side of the head. Okay. That right palm is facing upwards. You can tuck the left arm in a little bit if you like, or if it's okay, you can reach it forward. And then once you come into that shape, you just want to start to close your eyes down. Okay. Now the upper body meridian lines, they are stimulated a lot quicker. So we don't hold these postures as long as we would if we were working the lower half of the body. So you're going to slowly start to find that deeper inhale and then that deeper exhale. Try to relax your fingers, the side of your neck. And imagine you're drawing energy into your lungs. And as you exhale, think of it as releasing. It's not only the carbon dioxide you're releasing, but think of anything heavy that you want to let go of, even if it's like some tension in your chest from, sitting too much at the desk. I'm going to take 5 more breaths here, 5 nice deep breaths. On your next breath in, start to press into your left hand and slowly begin to lift up. You're going to unwind the hands. And if you can, for a moment, just sit back on the heels. If that's not accessible, come down onto your belly for a moment, okay? Just want you to be in a position where you can pause for a moment, just so that you can notice the breath. And then let's make our way forward just into a table position for a moment. And let's release the legs. So let's just release the knees and start to just stretch the legs back one at a time. And then we'll head back and do the other side. So again, bringing the big toes together, opening the knees. You'll start to shift your hips backwards towards the hips. This time it's the left arm coming underneath the right. The palm turns up. The head comes down. And again, if you're lifted up like this, you want to prop. So bring the earth up to you by putting something underneath the side of the head. Okay, just so that it's a little bit more comfortable here. And draw the chin just slightly down towards the chest. That's just going to keep the back of the neck nice and long. Close the eyes. Just breathing deeply in and out through your nose. This practice is all about letting go, about surrendering. That doesn't mean going really deep into a posture and overstretching and taxing the tissues and the fascia of your body. Even the most gentle and subtle of sensation is enough to help you clear out what you're holding onto. And even if you are uncertain about what it is that you want to let go of, the beauty of this practice and the beauty of working with the meridian system of the body is that it intuitively already knows. And it'll often work in a kind of layered effect. So for example, say you've been dealing with asthma. Perfect example. So that's all about the chest and the lungs. Say you developed asthma as a young child and now you're an adult. that's going to take a lot longer for the symptoms to start to release than opposed to, say, you just developed asthma, say 6 months ago. So the body will clear out what is more acute first and then chronic afterwards. Take a slow breath in through your nose, a deep breath out. And then once again, just slowly start to unwind yourself. See if you can come up to stillness, just resting on the heels for a moment. If not, please come to the belly instead. You always make sure your knee joints are happy here. Just take a couple of really nice, long, deep breaths here. And then once again, let's come into table position. We're going to set up for our next posture. So we're going to actually be coming down onto the belly. So we're going to set up for Sphinx pose. So I'm going to show you a couple of variations you can work with. Okay? Again, just depending on how your lower back is feeling today. So option one is actually just stacking the hands one on top of the other and resting your forehead down. Okay, the natural curvature in the lumbar spine for some people is just, this is enough. If you're okay to come up a little higher, you're going to bring your elbows forward in front of your shoulders. Okay, so you're going to feel your rib cage drop. And your legs are just a little bit wider than your hips. If you want to come right up into Sphinx, you're going to tuck those elbows right underneath the shoulders. So you're looking for that 90-90 position here. And again, the head is either maybe supported with a block, which is, I find, really nice. You can place your block at whatever height you need. You can also let your head hang if that's comfortable, or you can keep the head forward. And then you want to try to see if you can relax in through the lower half of your body. So if this isn't about trying to squeeze or hold muscles in, you're softening the belly, allowing the chest to slightly come forward. Your fingers are soft. You're just finding that natural breath in and out through your nose. If at any point you start to feel like the compression is a little too heavy, feel free to just come down a little bit, either into that baby Sphinx version or right down, forehead to the mat. I love this posture for so many reasons. Firstly, I love it because it's just really nice to open up the front of your spine. It strengthens the muscles around your sacrum, so it really gives your spine a lot of support. Energetically, it's very uplifting. And if you're someone who sits at the desk most of your day, this is definitely a posture you want to do because it just helps balance out the rounding that happens when you're hunched forward in front of a computer. I like to take deeper inhales in this pose. And I almost just let my exhale happen on its own. Now we have about 1 minute left here. If you want to come up a little bit higher, I'm going to show you the option for seal pose. You're going to take your hands to the outer corners of your mat, press into your palms, and then just slowly start to lift your elbows off the mat. Now this is quite compressive for the lower back, so for some people this just does not work. If you do come up, just make sure that your bum is just slightly squeezed in here. And then you'll take one more really deep breath in here. Long breath out. And then just slowly start to come all the way down onto the belly. You can stack the hands one on top of the other and let your forehead rest. Or you can come to one ear and bring your arms down by your sides. Bring your big toes so that they're a little closer together. And then just pause and allow the spine to settle. And take a really deep breath in and a long breath out. From here, you're going to slowly start to press yourself up. And we're going to meet in a table position. So for this next pose, again, if there's any sensitivity with the knees, I want you to place something underneath there so you've got a little bit of cushioning, okay, for your knees. Now, in this shape, we're going to be melting the chest forward and down. And you're going to want to keep your navel just slightly drawn in here. So you want to protect the lower back from curving a little bit too much. So this pose called melting heart is literally what we're doing. We're melting the heart down. So you want to have your hips and knees in line with one another. Tops of the feet are flat. It's like you're anchoring through your shins and your feet. And then you'll start to walk the hands forward and you'll start to bring the chest down. When you bring the chest down, you want to think about actually drawing your chest forward towards the floor. Your elbows are anchored. Now they can be out wide if you like. And then your forehead can be onto a block or the floor. Try not to roll yourself forward. So you want to try and keep those hips directly underneath your knees. Now, if you find your chest is really tight, placing a block underneath your chest can sometimes be really nice just to kind of anchor yourself here. And then again, you're keeping the navel drawn in. That's helping to stabilize the lower back. And that space right behind the heart center, so right between the shoulder blades, that's where you're breathing into. So as you take these next few really deep breaths, just think about drawing in what you need down into your lungs. And then as you exhale, think of releasing out what you no longer need, whatever it is that no longer serves you. We'll take about another 5 deep breaths here. And then together, take a really deep breath in through the nose. Long breath out through the mouth. And then just slowly start to come up onto the palms. Begin to lift yourself back up. So you're back in table. And again, you can either sit back on the heels for a moment, or even just come into a comfortable seated position, maybe with the legs out in front, just to release the knees a little bit. And take a moment and just, again, notice what sensation you're feeling. Notice release. Notice if there's any heat or cooling sensation in through the body. And then take one more really deep breath in. Long breath out. And let the eyes open. We're going to shift into our next pose. This is my absolute most favorite yin pose ever. Supported fish. So this is where if you've got 2 blocks, great. If you only have 1 block, that's okay. If you've got your rolled up towels, I will show you both variations, just depending on what you're working with at home. Okay. So first option is if you've got 2 blocks. You're going to take the first block. This one's going to be going behind the head. So you're going to place it at the top of your mat. Go the highest level. And this is the most supportive for the head and the neck. And then the second block is what rests right between your shoulder blades. I like to go across my upper back because I find it's more supportive for my chest, especially if I'm feeling really tight. You can also go vertical down the length of the spine, and that actually is far more of an opening position. So you place that block just in front of your other block. And then you're going to turn yourself around and you're going to come down onto the blocks. So your bum is grounded here. My head is resting on that first block. My shoulders, my chest are supported with the second block. And then I outstretch my arms from my shoulders. If you only have 1 block, then you definitely want to make sure that that block that's going behind the chest is at the lowest level, because you need to have your head on the floor. Okay. If you've got blanket, you can use the blanket as a prop for your head. And if you have no blocks at all, this is where you're taking that rolled up towel and you're just literally coming right over it. So where you want this towel to rest is literally right at the very bottom of your rib cage at the back here. And then again, the arms can be stretched up overhead or out from your shoulders. Your legs can be straight out. More supportive is keeping the knees bent, the feet on the mat. If you want to do a little bit of external hip opening, you can always come into butterfly shape with your legs. So bring the soles of your feet together and let your knees open up. That's also a really nice option there. But what's really most important in this shape is getting those arms out from your shoulders so that you're opening up the chest line, but you're also opening up those meridian lines. You're activating them just by the stretch of the arms out. And then the eyes, of course, come to a nice close. And start to tune into the sound of the breath here. So we're going to take a few minutes in this shape. This is such a beneficial shape for so many reasons. Just from a purely physical perspective, it opens up the chest and the lungs. So it allows us to breathe easily and with less effort. And often what happens when we breathe very shallow, the spaces, those little intercostal muscles between our ribs, they get really, really tight. And when they get really tight, it restricts our breath even more so. So by being in this shape, we're opening up anatomically. Energetically, we're opening up because we're allowing the chest and the heart to be open. And emotionally, the same thing. We're allowing for the heart to be a little vulnerable, a little exposed. Now, practicing this at home by yourself, you can hold this shape anywhere for a minute of, minimum of 2 minutes up to, I would say, I've been in this shape for 10 or 15 minutes. Just as long as you are feeling comfortable in it, and your lower back as well, because sometimes the longer hold of this can create a little bit of discomfort in the low back if you tend to have lower back concerns. So always listen to the body. If it's possible, without force or without too much effort, just slowly start to deepen your breath now. Find a little deeper breath in and a little deeper breath out. Even if it's just one breath count more than where you were before. If you have the accessibility in your body, feel free to take your arms up just a little bit further away from the body, maybe just a little bit further up. But you want to make sure that you're keeping the backs of your palms grounded here, so nothing is floating in space. And then together, let's take a really deep breath in through the nose and send it out through the mouth. Let it go. And then let's do that one more time. Take another big breath in and a long breath out. And then to come out of the shape, you want to do so very slowly. So first by starting to walk the feet onto the mat if they're not already there. And then start to bring your arms a little closer down towards your hips. And then very slowly, because we're working the yin energy of our body, you're going to slowly roll over onto your left side, making sure that your bottom arm is anchoring your head. And then you're coming into that fetal position where the knees are drawn to the chest, the head is heavy on the bottom arm, and you're pausing there and just allowing the residue of that shape to release. And just see what you can notice here, what you can sense or what you can feel. And take one deep breath in, one long breath out. And very slowly start to press into your top hand and begin to lift yourself up. Now, once you come up to a seated position, we'll set up for a spinal twist. So this is going to be a little bit of a longer hold of a twist, because the longer holds are actually more energizing. Okay, so in the daytime, we want a little bit more of that uplift, a little bit more of that energy to take us through the rest of the day. Of course, listen to your body. If you need to come out sooner, you're just going to be resting on the back. Do have some kind of prop close by you. So whether you want to use a block or you want to use a towel, just kind of nice option to support your back. So from here, let's make our way onto the back with the knees bent. I like to come to the center of my mat so that I have some room above and below me. We're going to take the arms either out from the shoulders in a sort of, cactus style or T position. You can outstretch them straight if you like. And then bringing your feet and your knees together, you're going to shift your hips a little bit to the left, and you're going to let your knees fall to the right. Now, if they don't touch the floor, this is where the block is handy. You can either tuck the block under the bottom knee, you can tuck the block between the knees, or both. Or, if you've got a blanket or a towel, you can kind of wedge in there as well. And then depending on how your neck feels in this position, you might let your left ear roll to the left shoulder. It might stay centered, or it might feel better to roll your head towards the right. And then once you settle in, start to tune into that breath first. Always want to tune into the breath first. Let the breath start to anchor you. And once you're anchored in the breath, then you can start to tap into the sensations that you're feeling. And sometimes those sensations can come up as either a physical sensation in the body, like you're feeling an area of the body that's being stretched. Sometimes it'll be more of an energetic sensation. So sometimes that's like a vibration or a throb. Sometimes it'll be a heat or a cooling sensation that you'll feel. You want to imagine, again, breath drawing itself in through the nose, making its way down through the lungs. And that's on the physical level. On the energetic level, when you're drawing that breath in through the lungs, it's going into those lung meridian lines. And it's also feeding in to the large intestine meridian lines, because those two organs are paired together in traditional Chinese medicine. Now, if I was feeling really energized, maybe a little wired, and I needed to calm down a little bit, I could hold this shape, but I would hold it for a very short period of time. So less than 2 minutes, 1 to 2 minutes. For a more energizing effect, which is what we're looking to get here, we're going to hold for about 4 minutes. Of course, listening to the body. If you need to come out, you're just simply resting onto the back. Feel the breath in through the nose. When you are reminded that everything is interconnected, so the body, the mind, the energy, the soul, It all collectively works together, always, to bring you back into balance. That is always the main goal of our state of being, is always trying to be in balance. So even if you didn't have an hour to practice, even practicing for 10 or even 15 minutes, even 5 minutes. My teacher, Sarah Powers, had told me once in one of my yin trainings that practicing for 5 minutes every single day, one pose, is better than taking 1 hour every couple of weeks or once a week. Okay, 5 minutes. 5 minutes in your morning, or 5 minutes in the middle of your day, or 5 minutes in your evening. Just give yourself that gift of self-care. And the more regularly you practice, the more your nervous system will adapt and start to tune into when it is out of balance. And it'll communicate that to you. It'll start to give you symptoms and signs and signals that things are not working as they should. And then this practice, this beautiful gift of this practice, will allow you to tap into what you're feeling is out of balance and bring it back in. Take a really deep breath in through your nose and send it out through your mouth. Let it go. You're going to slowly start to bring your head back to center, and then start to bring your knees back up. Eventually, you're just going to pause for a moment, resting on your back, your arms maybe down by your sides for a moment. Really deep breath in, long breath out. And then let's prepare for the other side. So taking those arms back out from your shoulders, you slowly shift your hips to the right. Let your knees fall towards the left. Again, propping in any way that supports you in this shape. And when you remember that the body is often asymmetrical, so how you prop yourself on one side can be very different from the other. And find your head to rest in a comfortable position. And close the eyes if they're open. Start to tune in again to the breath. These long, slow, deep breaths. Can you slow your breath down just a little more? Really shifting into that more parasympathetic state where you're breathing in and you're breathing out for just a little bit longer. This as meditation in stillness. So even if your mind wanders off and all of a sudden you think of something else, just tune right back into the breath And that will bring you right back into the moment and right back into sensation. Feel your spine letting go. Soften your belly. Let the hinge of your jaw relax, separating upper molars from lower molars. Letting the tongue fall towards the bottom of the mouth. Softening the space around the heart, the muscles of the chest. And even relaxing right down to the very tips of the fingers, where those lung and large intestine meridian lines are. Relaxing the toes. We'll take our last 3 deep breaths in this shape. Never rushing or forcing the breath. At the end of your 3rd exhale, the inhale will start to bring your chin back to center, the knees back to center, and the arms down by your sides. Once you're resting onto the back, take 2 slow, deep breaths at your own pace. And then if your body needs just a moment of movement before we settle into final Shavasana, just go ahead. If you want to start to wrap yourself up, so maybe covering up your body, especially the upper half of your body, maybe putting some socks on your feet. You can rest either in Shavasana on the back. If you prefer to rest on your side, you're going to rest on the left side, so on the yin side body in a fetal position. You can also come up and sit in a meditative position like I am, if that feels more suitable. So I want you to find something that resonates with you. Once you come into your final relaxation pose, just let the breath start to find its own natural rhythm. There's simply nothing to do here. Nothing to do, but just absorb the benefit of your practice. Allow your body to come back into balance. noticing just as you are. Begin to invite the breath back into the body. First by noticing the breath in through the nose. Noticing which nostril it comes in through more clearly. Noticing how that breath in feels. And then beginning to notice the breath out. The effect of breathing out through the nose. Starting to bring some gentle movement into the body. So a little bit of wiggle of the fingers and the toes. Gentle roll of the head from side to side. Begin to circle the wrists and the ankles. And at your own pace, at your own time, just slowly starting to make your way up into a comfortable seated position. Whether you want to sit on the heels or whether you want to sit cross-legged, we're going to do just a very short lung meridian meditation to end our practice today. So you want to be sitting up nice and tall here. So with your fingers, you're going to make like you're cupping your fingers. So, you know, your four fingers are pressing one against each other. And then you're going to cross your arms so that the tips of your fingers are resting just above your collarbones. Okay. So you want to feel like a little bit of that fleshy part. If you've got clothing there, you can kind of just move it off to the side so that you can just press in there. And you're not pressing very deep here, but you want to just press into that little indentation. And then again, you're sitting tall, the eyes are closed. You're just breathing in and out through your nose. So feel the breath at the very tip of the nostrils. You feel your chest rise and fall. Without forcing it, see if you can draw the breath in deeply so that you actually feel a little rise of the collarbones. Take one more breath in and breath out. And then releasing the hands, place them down onto your laps, palms facing down. Pause for a moment. Just let the energy shift and settle. And then bring the palms of the hands together in front of the heart. And lightly bow the chin, the forehead down towards the tips of your fingers. Take a deep breath in and a long breath out. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Namaste.